Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined tonight in the virtual studio by the one and only. He is a truly unique individual, Mr. Johnny Larkin. How are you, Johnny?
What an intro. That's a pretty special intro right then and there. I'm pretty good, though. How are you?
Well, good. Special man deserves a special intro, you know. Sometimes you got to give
Thank you.
credit where credit's due. Um,
Yes.
I'm
Thank you.
well. I'm good.
That's good.
Uh, six six days 6 days away from being married. Was out
You are
outfit shopping today. People
nice.
listening going, "You left it till 6 days before." Yes, I did, and I got exactly what I wanted. So to everyone out there who
Good.
says you need to be prepared for everything 2 months in advance, you don't.
No.
Um, I'll wait until I get burned before I change policy. On the show tonight, Johnny, the Cats v Kangaroos, a round 5 recap. Chuckaroo on the Barbie. The Cats did down at Kardinia Park. So we're going to recap all of that action for you here on YouTube, at Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your Hoops Crew media. Then we're going to jump on over into the Patreon section of the show and deliver our Patreon player focus on Jack Bowes. It's going to be an interesting one, Johnny, because when I was doing the research on this player, found a few interesting points, and I'm keen to pick your brain on where your perception and feeling about Jack Bowes is in 2024 and how that marries up to what
Ooh.
others in the Cats fan fraternity are thinking. If you want to see or listen to that part of the show, make sure you go on over and sign up to the Hoops Crew Patreon channel. 7-day free trials available. You get access to extended versions of all the shows, early access to things like Paul's behind the play stuff. You get VFL men's and women's coverage, which is exclusive to the Patreon subscribers, as well as a Wednesday news show and many more things in the works as we move along down this Cats fanalist adventure. But enough about that. Let's jump in, Johnny, to Cats v Kangaroos. I'll give it the summary, then you can give the initial thoughts. So, Geelong hosting North Melbourne. What would they do? It was, a game that they were almost unbackable favourites. And the Cats opened in that sort of form, took 17 minutes 15 and a half minutes for North to find the score. And that was a behind. And before then, the Cats had slammed on 3 goals and absolutely dominated territory. They responded immediately to North's goal of Paul Curtis with one to Jeremy Cameron. And although the Roos got the last 2 of the first quarter, the signs were ominous for the Kangaroos on a cruisy Sunday afternoon down at Kardinia Park. The Cats went in at the first change, 5-2-32 to 3-1-19 leaders. And boy, oh boy, did they come out and extend away across the second quarter. It was Brad Close at the end, in fact, of that first quarter who goaled there. But then Cameron twice in the space of about 5 minutes, 3 times in the space of the first 10 minutes in the second quarter. He really started to put North to the sword. Max Holmes drifting through 50, just a poked kick, sails through for a goal. Shannon Neal finds the big sticks. And at halftime, the Cats led 12-6, 78. They'd piled on 7 goals for to North's 1 goal 2 in the second quarter. A bit of a sort of cruisy third term. The teams traded goals, 3 goals for the Cats, 3 goals 4 for Geelong. It was 2 goals, 1 for North, and Geelong took a 60-point lead in at the final change of ends, and they finished with a 6-goal-4 term. They run out 21-13, 139 to 10-4, 64 victors on a beautiful sunny day down at Kardinia Park. Johnny, the Cats, they came into the season flying somewhat under the radar, And yet here they are, one of the last two undefeated sides in the comp, claiming their 5th win from 5. What were your initial thoughts and takeaways from a Sunday skewering of the Roos?
Pretty much expected what we saw. Pretty clinical Cats going up against a developing Kangaroos outfit. It was pretty much done and dusted at really that's half time. The Cats basically had it won then and just continued to put on the pain on the Kangaroos and build that percentage up. But yeah, it was good hit out for the team. Good practice, oh, not practice much, but yeah, it was a pretty
Did you just say a
pretty
good practice match for a
basically,
round
yeah.
5 clash with North Melbourne? It did feel like that. Was it
It
even the
did feel
level of
like
a
that at
practice match, or
stages.
was it more match sim?
And actually, yeah, it was, and yeah, it's hard as to see North Melbourne where they are. But I tell you what, they're looking all right. North Melbourne, like they're still young. They don't have many senior guys, but I think in a few years, everyone's going to be going bloody North Melbourne. Those bastards. They keep on winning. They've got all these stars, but at the moment, it's a painful road. And there's going to be games like
Mm,
this for North Melbourne for probably another couple of years, I reckon, of just getting smashed by higher opposition, and that's what happened on the weekend. And you know, lessons learned for North Melbourne, and some experience gained for the Cats. Really, at the end of the day, it's just two teams at
mm.
completely opposite ends of ladders, and where they are at the moment as well. And yeah, it's what it is. Unfortunately, for the Kangaroos, and they're gonna suffer losses like this throughout the year.
Yeah, look, it's really hard to see Alistair Clarkson go through this. Who am I kidding? It's amazing.
Yeah,
I feel sorry for North Melbourne because I've always had a soft spot for
yeah.
them. I do not feel sorry for the coach and staff. But look, I think Johnny, something. I mean, from a broader angle, I am fascinated to see how the Alistair Clarkson experiment works for North Melbourne because
Mm,
it, it's interesting. The Hawks go downhill sort of at the end of his run, gets replaced, he's out of the game for however long it was, couple of seasons, and comes back. The game has changed. I was thinking this a few times
as
where North are trying to move the ball high possession, slow kick to slow kick to slow kick. And I haven't watched them much this season. Someone had said that they were doing something similar. It's a high possession style of footy they like to play. And you contrast that with the Cats, which is just this absolutely venomous slingshot from end to end, typified by your players like Jeremy Cameron, like Max Holmes, who are just so damaging in this post
mhm,
2021 Geelong Cats era. Um, yeah, you're right, Johnny. Like that, it was over by half time. Really, I was listening on the radio because I was on VFL coverage duties on Sunday. I'd saved up the women's game and I was watching the men's as well. So I had the first half of this in my years with the K Rock radio coverage, which was absolutely outstanding. First time in
absolutely.
ages that I've tuned into K Rock, and full marks there from me. And you sort of thought, oh, maybe the Roos have wrestled back into it. They kicked what, 3 of the last 4 goals of the first quarter, and then Geelong just put the foot down, and it was
Yeah.
just one of those games where anytime Geelong wanted to pull away, they did. I doubt really that the Cats got out of about second gear. What did you think of our pressure, Johnny, from your players like Parfitt, Dempsey, uh, Myers, Bruin, Atkins, etc.? Close, throw him
Yeah.
in there as well. What was your thoughts on the pressure game in a game where we were dominating?
Yeah, it was good to see that. The pressure never really relented on North Melbourne, and that's where a lot of their mistakes come from. Obviously, from being put under immense amount of pressure, and it was really good to see the
Mm,
Cats continue to pile on that pressure, even in that last quarter. Towards the end of the quarter, they're still applying immense pressure on the Kangaroos, which is what do you want to see? You don't want to see teams have a team beaten at halftime and then take the foot off the gas. You want to keep on pressuring. You want to keep going. You want to keep powering through because as soon as you start slacking off in those areas, that's when you can let other teams get back in. They get a bit of a boost, and then you're on the back foot. You've got to find that energy again to get that pressure going. So it's good to see the Cats applying that pressure, and also helps when there's a really big competition for spots in the side. You want to keep bringing your best foot forward no matter what the situation is. So it's really pleasing to see the Cats do that. And I'm glad I'm not a selector this week trying to pick a team because it's who do you leave out? It's tough, but I think
Oh,
there's maybe a couple of obvious ones that could be left out. But then again, the two players I'm thinking of, Sullivan O'Connor and Shannon Neal, they didn't do
mm,
anything wrong. In fact, Shannon Neal played a really good game. Connor O'Sullivan played really good in his for that base level of where he's at. It's a pretty good building block, and
mm,
you can see why the Cats were excited to get him and why he came. It's lots of high praise, and he got the number 14, and it's working out well. And if he starts off there, he's going to be an absolute superstar for the Cats in the future. So yeah, I think those two most likely will come out, but who knows? As I said, they didn't do anything wrong.
mm,
They put the best foot forward, and it's good to see the Cats' future is in good hands, especially with that young midfield again, just dominating throughout the entire game and keeping that pressure on. As I said, throughout all four quarters to
mm,
the very end, didn't let up, didn't let the Kangaroos get any easy ones out the back or easy last few minute quarter goals. They still had to work really hard in North Melbourne to get those
mm,
two goals in that last quarter. So yeah, pleasing outing. Although it was
mm,
you know straightforward and basically right game in the book as it was, you still want to tick these games off with good effort and know that you put your all in each game. Because if you not start slacking off, as I said, against these lower base teams,
mm,
then you're going to think that could happen in a big game like next week.
mm.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
think good performance, good game, good win, 5-0, proving
Mm.
everyone wrong yet again. Although I do see a lot of people saying that they've only played no one in the top 8 from last year. It's like, well, we'll see.
Yeah. Now it's now it's soft schedule and all that sort of thing. And look, I think it
Yeah.
really does depend where you had your pass mark for the season, where you had your expectations. I had basically reset after the flag to be in 2022 that the next couple of seasons compete for finals,
Mm,
stay finals relevant. And so, 5-0, I can't,
it's
like, there's nothing I could critique and it's sort of proving in some ways that, you know, health is such a big thing. Health,
it
and I
is.
do think, the more I watch footy, Johnny, and the more seasons you go through, there is something to be said for those teams that do have that, maybe they haven't won a flag in a while and they have the big celebration after, not just after as in in the days after, but in the weeks and months after, there's a bit of a pressure release. Um,
Yeah.
and you're looking at like what Collingwood started the year off. You look how we started last year off. It was sort of a perfect storm of factors for the Cats last year, with not only winning the flag and coming off that shorter preseason, but then having a bunch of injuries coming to start the year, gathering more as we went. The absence of Joel Selwood, of Isaac Smith,
Yeah.
etc. So it's nice to see everyone fit and firing. We're just going to bring up the major sort of the main stats and score here. So obviously we said the Cats win 21-13, 139 to 10-4, 64. At least North were accurate
Yeah.
when they did hit the scoreboard. The Cats were pretty good too, though. That 21-13, 139.
Very
That's a
nice.
lovely score.
They could have had
Jeremy
22
Cameron
with
led the way.
um,
Yeah.
Ollie Henry. I didn't do a radical ear and try and take a mark on the
Mm.
goal line off Duncan.
There was I tell you what, Johnny, there was a bit of feedback about Ollie Henry's game, which maybe we can get into as we go
Ooh,
on
yep.
Twitter, which sort of interested me. Jeremy Cameron led the way with 6 goals straight after kicking 2 goals for against the Dogs. Brad Close, he was an elite. He poached 1 goal late, soccering off the ground, and I just could imagine Brad Close in a Celtic jersey or something, stabbing the ball in at the far post. He was excellent poacher's goal. He
Wasn't it off
kicks
his, like,
4 goals
back foot as
straight.
well?
It was bizarre. He
'Cause
missed the initial kick and then just got something
and then
to it, and
his, follow through on the other foot actually got it through.
yeah. As long as it goes through.
Yep, that's
Shannon
all that
Neal
matters.
kicks 3 goals, 1 in his first appearance this season. In the disposal count, it was
Really
Max
good.
Holmes, 25 disposals, Tom Stewart, 24, Brian Myers, 23. For the Roos, it was Ford with 3 straight, Larkey with 2 straight, Drury with 2 straight. Geez, you add it up, the two teams combined for 31 goals, 17. There was some pretty good work going on inside 50 around the big
Very
sticks.
good.
And disposals for North. Sheasel with 38, Scott 27, Davis Uniacke with 27, and they were the major ball winners. And Johnny, speaking of major ball winners, it was interesting to look. This is the second week in a row. You flick over to the player stats and you sort by fantasy points. Sheasel of North, Cameron of Geelong, Scott, Powell, Cherry, Davis Uniacke, Drury of North, Max Holmes of Geelong, Eddie Ford of the Kangaroos, O'Connor of the Cats, McDonald and Tucker from the Kangaroos, Brian Myers of the Cats. Then you've got Nguyen and Fisher of the Kangaroos. You look, Geelong's got like 4 players in the top 15 for AFL fantasy points. It's a similar sort of
Yep.
story in terms of you looking at the top 10 disposal winners on the ground.
Yeah.
But Johnny, they are ruthlessly efficient when they do have the ball. Like, it's one of those games again where the stats don't really always tell the story. You got to watch and you got to look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's like, last week's game against Bulldogs, like, their 3 big midfielders had a day out in that, getting disposals and getting inside 50s and whatnot, but the Cats still came out on top, and I think that just shows the connectedness of the Cats that doesn't matter who has the ball, doesn't matter who gets the most disposals, it's just going one way, and that's going forward. And they share it around
Mm,
really well. Like, it's one of the pleasing things I like about the Cats is it doesn't look like they rely on one player heavily at all throughout a game. It's Dangerfield, yeah, it'd be great to have him back next week against the Lions, but I don't think it's one of those games where it doesn't feel like we need Dangerfield back for upcoming game, because it
mm,
feels like our midfield, as under strength it will be in a way to the Lions one, I still feel like they'll hold up
mm,
really well, even without Dangerfield. But with Dangerfield coming back in, it does give that little bit extra boost. But it's not going to be the reason why we win next week if we win. It'll be the whole team working
mm,
together as they have the last 5 games and just working as a unit and not individual players trying to lead from the front as other teams like
mm,
North Melbourne, inexperienced. They're going to look to the most skillful players to get the ball to most, because that's what you need. You need your best players to get the ball so they can deliver it well inside 50. And you could tell with North Melbourne when Chisel had it and he kicked it inside 50, most times it found a target in a really good position. And other times from
mm,
other players, they just weren't as either skilled or didn't have the confidence or the experience to pass off a good kick. Whereas you look at the Cats,
mm,
any Cats player going inside 50 can pull off a really good kick in the right position,
mm,
the right player, basically all the time. And yeah, I just think it's a really positive thing for the Cats that the most disposal winner for the Cats is just above 25 each game. They still haven't had one player get 30 disposals. And I think that's a badge of honor that the Cats can hold, that they don't rely on one player, they rely on each other as a unit to win a game. And,
mm.
when you start getting that team effort going forward. It's going to be hard to stop. But next week will be a good test.
Yeah, and like it's interesting. Like it really does feel like it's worthy almost of closer analysis, I suppose, in some
Yeah.
ways. Like you just, I don't know. It's almost like on the weekend. This is a ridiculous statement to start with, but then like let me elaborate. It's almost like Geelong felt very comfortable with North having the ball, and
Oh,
it's like
he's a
we'll just
good
set
stat
you up.
player.
I remember,
Sorry.
yeah,
I was just going to say there was it top 15 one.
mm,
Yeah, 15 players for
on
meters
this,
gained.
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8 of them were cats for most
yeah,
of meters gained per disposal, and then 7 kangaroos. So even when the
yeah.
cats had less well, players had less disposal, it was still those meters gained heavily in the cats' favour, and I
Mm.
think that's a pretty telling stat, I reckon. Meters gained.
Well, it's interesting, especially when you combine it with a few others. Like like we've been tracking, like it's a meters gained per disposal, and then adding things in like you're like looking at turnovers. Geelong only had 59 turnovers for the game. The Roos up to 79. So Geelong were really happy for the Roos to have a bunch of uncontested
Mm,
possession, wait until they were forced to kick to a contest, and then Geelong was able to force the intercept, or if not intercept the mark, turn it over, get things going their way. It reminds me of, I'm sure I read an article once about the Brisbane Lions three-peat teams of their kick out strategy, which was to kick it out on top of an opposition player and then attack that player, sort of thing, like
yep.
don't you kick it to your player and have the opposition swarm him. Kick it to their player and you go and attack him so he has to stand under it. It was almost like that thing of Geelong going, all right, yeah, you flick it around happily, rack up your stats, and then we're going to force the turnover as soon as you have to make a more aggressive decision, and we're going to go straight back down and punish you. It's just this vicious cycle then of North, because they get more and more conservative about moving the footy, which just plays right into Geelong's hands, and away you go. Like, I think you'll see the teams that are prepared to continue to be aggressive against Geelong. Yes, they're going to get burned going back the other way a few times, but I think you have to stay aggressive against us because,
Yeah.
it's a bit like back in the day of like the Tigers. I don't think you could beat that Richmond side being conservative and trying to control the ball. You had to go hard at
Cats
them,
tried,
as
and it
and
didn't work.
yeah, and failed and had to ultimately change our game plan.
Yeah.
And I think that you look at like Collingwood too. In 2022, we couldn't conservatively sit there. It was a game of chicken, that qualifying final.
Mm,
And the Cats ultimately had that extra bit of class and quality when it counted. But I think that teams are going to be faced with a similar choice this
yeah.
season of, yep, you can rack up all the stats you want, but unless you're prepared to continue to attack Geelong, you are going to be on a hiding to nothing more weeks than not. Um, Johnny, wanted to just talk about a couple of specific games before we get into our player votes. Going to try and keep the public recap about 30-35 minutes tonight,
Yeah.
recording a little bit later than usual. So some players who I'm sure are going to feature in our votes. We don't really need to talk about them yet. I'm assuming we'll be talking a bit about Jessica Cameron and a couple of others. Wanted to ask you what you thought of the games of. Now these are some. First of all, let me start with you and Shannon Neal, because I've watched Shannon Neal a
Yes.
bunch in the VFL. What was your thoughts as someone who might not have seen him in the VFL? What did you feel about his 3-goal, 4-mark, 6-tackle performance here?
I found athletic Tom Hawkins is what I thought when I first saw him. I was like, holy shit, he has put some bulk on his frame. That he is looking strong. He's looking athletic. He's looking great, and I thought he had a fantastic game. Really just took on that forward line really well. Great marks. I think his forward craft was pretty acceptable. Although, yeah, it was against a very inexperienced North Melbourne side, so take what you can from that. But I think overall in his first game of this year, he looked really good, and he's going to be an exciting prospect for the Cats going forward when Tom Hawkins does eventually hang up the boots. And I found it really reassuring that when Hawkins does retire, we've got this great, big, lumbering full forward waiting in the rings to take over, and he's looking confident. That's what I liked most. When he came on, he looked confident. He looked like he was ready to take the game apart, and he really could have if he wanted to. And he's got a presence
Mm,
about him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him more often this year. I think he really, you know, not only his muscles, but the way he was able to get up the
mm.
ground, do some ruck work, impose on the opposition as well. I think he can be a really opposing threat for the opposition going forward. And as I said, can't wait to see more of him. Really enjoyed that
All
game.
right. Let me let me throw another one at you then. Another player you wouldn't have seen play before today. I've only watched him play twice because he's only been at the club this season. Connor O'Sullivan has 11 disposals, 3 marks, a tackle. What did you feel about just watching him? I know it's early days in his career, so you can't glean an absolute heap, but just sort of I guess a few early impressions.
Uh, good. Good to see the number 14 out there again. Seeing you bring you some nostalgic memories of Selwood and go,
Mm,
good to see that 14 back out there. It's really
mm.
warmed the cockles, as you say, seeing that jumper out there again. It was really special, I thought, to see that on another player. But as I said earlier, I think if that's his base level of
Mm.
skill and game style, I think it's a really good platform. And I think he's going to find his way into this team really soon and hold it down. And I think,
His,
again, it's another position that's feeling safe in his hands for when the likes of Stewart, Colajazzi, and
mm.
Isaac, no, not Isaac, Zach Tui retire. I think, yeah,
Yeah, it's
reassuring again.
It's interesting, a little stat on him, Connor O'Sullivan. He faced the most contested defensive one-on-ones, not just for his team, but for the game. He was found in 4 contested defensive one-on-one situations. Um, how many did he lose, do you think, John?
I'm going to say 0.
You are correct. So not bad for the rookie,
Not bad.
formerly of the Albury Tigers, 4 contested
I
defensive
call that.
one-on-ones faced, none. That's right. None lost. On debut. All right. Couple more quick ones, Johnny, and then we better get to our votes. Wanted your thoughts on a couple of players um, as we talk about, team selection and all that sort of thing. Obviously, I don't think we can glean much from Jai Clark's limited sort of game time.
No.
Just want your thoughts on these players who I don't think will be in your votes. Just very quickly, Ollie Dempsey. Did you did you like what he put out? Did you think it was
Yeah.
down on his usual output? What do you say? Did he get a pass mark from you? Where'd you rate it?
His play definitely down on his last 4 weeks, but 4
Mhm,
weeks of straight footy, understandable for a new kid coming in, but he still put his still the effort was there. It just wasn't as
mm.
focused or as controlled as it was the last 4 weeks. But still, yeah, good efforts. But possibly could have a week off coming up. Maybe just looked a bit tired. I thought.
Yep, that's fair enough. Yeah, it was in the top, what, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven players in terms of time on ground for the Cats. Went 84% time on ground, which is just sort of expected from those like
Mm.
smaller forwards and forwards in general. I think that's about all I'm going to get from you there. I think we're going to now click over into
The
our
votes.
best on ground votes. Let's start with you. Actually, let's start with Sam's. He's got
All right.
those through to me. So Sam's going with 1 vote to Max Holmes. Um, he's going 2 votes to Brandon Parfitt, and he's going 3 votes to Jeremy Cameron. Um,
Nice.
so what about you, Johnny? Where are you leaning? Because maybe because I've got to tell you, I've got the same 3 players in my votes with a slight shuffle. What about yourself? What have you got?
I've got 2 similar players, but my 1 vote is different. My 1 vote
Okay, so
is
who's your 1 vote?
Shannon Neal.
Oh,
As I
nice.
said,
Okay,
for
cool.
reasons I said earlier. 2 votes, Brandon Parfitt. That's just, yeah, sort of what a game by him. Just continuously putting
Mm,
that pressure, making those turnovers. Just reminds me of Atkins when he was getting his spot back in the midfield. Just that bulldog chasing the ball, getting it and pressuring
mm.
and tackling and just imposing himself, and was got his hand in a great Max Holmes goal. And my 3 votes also to Jeremy Cameron. I mean, 6 goals, 21 disposals. Pretty ridiculous game by him.
It's pretty hard to go past Jesse Cameron
Pretty
with that,
impossible.
and that's why I didn't. I went with Brandon Parfitt 1 vote. I went Max Holmes the 2 vote, and I went Jesse Cameron the 3 vote. Let's start here. You've talked a bit about Parfitt. I'll just add a stat, and then we'll talk a bit about Max Holmes. Um, Parfitt, something that he's been criticised a lot of is how he uses the footy. It's not a matter of how much footy he wins. It's not about, everyone knows, he can win that 20 odd touches a game. He's going to do it in a hard contested fashion. He's going to win a bunch of clearances. Like today, on Sunday, he had 20 touches. He had 6 tackles, 7 clearances. It was equal first on the ground for the Cats with clearances, and it was second most. Sorry, with tackles, and it was second most in clearances. He also added a goal assist into that. Um, but another important stat here, I thought, from this performance in particular, Johnny, was that he went at 75% disposal efficiency, and I know to a lot of people, they'll look at that and say, "Oh, that's not, it's not in your 80%, it's not." But for Brandon Parfitt, that is exceptional. If you got Brandon Parfitt at
Yeah,
75% every week, you'd be over the moon. And then if you key into another stat, which has been, a tough one. So he's been at about 50, somewhere between 50 and 60% disposal efficiency on the season. His kicking's been down at about 40%. But if you're keen to just his kicking percent yesterday, it was up at 63.6%. So you got a player who is doing the right thing with the footy in this game while also not dropping off in terms of his pressuring. He had 30 pressure acts, 9 more than the next closest cat. So yeah, I really, really liked Brandon Parfitt's game. Would you
yeah.
say is he going to get dropped when Danger comes back into the side, or does someone else make way?
I don't think you can drop him at
It's
this
tough,
point.
isn't
I
it?
think it's tough. He's adding a lot more value to the team than people yeah, not that Dangerfield can't add value, he's gonna add a lot, but I don't think you can drop Parfitt just yet off that game. As I said,
Mm,
I think the most obvious choice may be giving Oliver Dempsey a rest this week. May
mm,
you know, a few games, 5 games in a row now. It's been a good run. He's played really well, but maybe it's just due for a little bit of a 1 game rest, and that then he'll come back
mm,
in. But yeah, it's tough. It is really tough because we don't want to drop anyone. I don't think anyone does deserve to be dropped. But when you've got the captain coming back in, someone's got to make way. And at the moment, I think I'll just have Parfitt maybe just ahead of Oliver Dempsey, just in terms of pressure, what he can bring, what he could bring up against the Lions. And I
mm.
think if you really put the pressure on the Lions, that's when they can fumble the ball and not use it cleanly. And I
Mm,
think Parfitt may just have his foot over Dempsey there. If you can have both and Dangerfield and all the rest, then absolutely, but bring it on. Find Dangerfield in another position. But yeah,
mm.
it's tough because I don't want to see.
This
I want
might
to see Oliver Dempsey play, but I just got a feeling maybe he's ready for a 1 week off.
Well, I'll put this case to you. It might not matter on where it's Danger that comes back into the side. If they thought that Rowan might be a go, I think Dempsey could get a one off for Rowan to come back
Yeah,
in. I love Ollie Dempsey,
that's true.
but I'm just fascinated to see how that goes with a player like Rowan, who's you know, I know the mythology about him used to be, oh, it doesn't perform in big games. Well, he was a spearhead when we beat the Pies in the qualifying final. He was an absolute driving force when we beat Melbourne down at Kardinia Park in an undermanned situation last season. I think they'll really like what Rowan can still add. I think that comes down to
Yeah.
health. I watched him in VFL. I thought his skills looked sharp, but they only ran him in limited minutes. Now that could be too. I saw some people talking about, well, they only used him in limited minutes, so maybe the fitness base isn't there. That could be true, but I also wonder if that's to protect him from injury as well. Like, we're only
Yeah.
gonna put you through a little bit, we'll just let you get back to the speed of a game. Wouldn't shock me if Gary Rowan found his way back into the team this week.
Oh, no,
Um,
definitely not.
but on the midfield one, I would throw out the suggestion that it's more likely that Rowan and Dempsey are fighting over that sort of spot. I think they
Yep.
play a similar role in the team. I think if Danger comes back in, I don't know that there's enough room in the side to have Jack Bowes, um, Brandon Parfitt, and Tom Atkins, all three. I think someone, and I don't know who, but I'm guessing it could be the last man in Jack Bowes, could be
Yep.
the guy to miss out. But I don't know. I don't know that for a certainty. He's playing
Oh,
super football, and we're about to talk about him. So it's just a great problem to have, unless you're a selector.
it is.
But let's talk about
It's a
our
massive
last
headache.
two players, Johnny. Max
Let's
Holmes,
do it.
who
Okay.
had another blinder. Max Holmes, 25 touches, 5 marks, 2 tackles, 2 clearances, 616 meters gained, and 2 goals, which were both
Brilliant goals.
sensational. What
Yeah.
yeah. Um, how many years and how much money would you be prepared to pay Max Holmes, Johnny? It was a remarkable
Um,
performance again.
just give him
All of
a
it?
blank sheet of paper with years and then a blank check and just say, "Write what you want." Basically,
Mm,
just
I think
I
he
think
was
he's one
he
of
was
those
inc
players. You just got to give what he wants, and I think a lot of senior players would go, "Yeah, sure, I'll take less money to keep this guy around because he's
mm,
going to be a superstar." And he's already turning out to,
yeah,
yeah, he's starting to become a really important player, absolute super player as well. And that goal on the far wing was outside 50, just incredible. And then the snap from 45 meters, just he's come along so far in the last couple of years. It's
mm,
ridiculous. So the Cats just give him whatever, just give him whatever. Who cares? Just keep him. But yeah, another another fantastic game by Max Holmes. Fast becoming another
yeah,
obvious choice.
yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. Like, just his speed that he adds, whether that's off halfback, whether it's off, they put him in a couple of stoppages, whether it's off the wing, like, he's just amazing.
And the
The
confidence.
number of ways. And what's funny is it's almost like he doesn't realize just how good he is. He almost looked shocked
Mm.
when that goal went in, the one that he just stabbed at it. I feel like it was almost a player that doesn't quite realize his own power. Just sort of stabbed at it. I think he maybe thought he was trying to set it up to Shannon Neal, and it goes through for a goal. Like,
I thought he
um,
was setting up his that's what
he
I thought at first. I was like, "Oh, he's setting
yeah,
up inside 50." Oh, no, that's a goal. Brilliant goal.
yeah, he's
Shame the
he's
umpires
just
had
got
to check it.
so much. Oh, mate, you got to get the sponsor's name in for the score reviews.
Crypto.
Um, I think I think yeah, he's just a remarkable talent, and let's just get him signed. Like I love that Mark O'Connor has signed an extension. It's fantastic.
Yep.
But let's
He
get
played a good
the
game as
deal
well.
done. He did. We barely talked about him, and he
2
was
goals.
exceptional. Good old Mark
2
O'Connor.
goals.
Lovely to see.
No, 1 goal,
1
sorry, 1
goal.
goal,
Sorry,
1
Johnny. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry to steal it
I
away.
thought he
But
hit
yeah,
2.
9 marks, 5 tackles, and he had 313 meters gained on the 15 touches to go with his goal. So love to see Mark O'Connor. But let's quickly talk here, Johnny, about a man we could probably spend a whole episode talk about. In fact, you could probably have a whole podcast series just about this player, just about this player's time at the Hoops, because it has been a mythic presence down at the Cattery pretty much since the moment he arrived. Jeremy Cameron, 6 goals straight, 21 disposals, 8 marks, 444 meters gained, and he grabs 3 goal assists, if you don't mind. So 9, he had a direct hand in 9 of Geelong's goals. He went at 81% disposal efficiency, he had 11 score involvements, the most of any player. Um, he's just an absolute freak, Johnny. And
Yep.
before you give just your thoughts on his game, you've got the first overall pick in a redraft of the entire league. So the lists are empty and you've got the first pick. Who are you taking, Tom Stewart or Jeremy Cameron?
Oh, Jesus. That is
Tell us in the comments who you're picking. You've
that
got
is
blank
tough.
lists, and you get to pick the first player. And you know you're probably not going to get both. Who are you going, Jeremy Cameron or Tom Stewart? Drop it in the comments. Who would it be?
Oh,
I I really don't know, because
me neither.
I
That's
love Tommy Stewart, but geez,
yeah.
Jeremy Cameron is an absolute alien.
I think I think you just have to go with Jeremy Cameron. As good as Stewart is, Jeremy Cameron is just
Oh,
just that bit more wild. Just that bit more. Just that bit more. It's just
let's
that bit more.
dream
There's
more.
he's just a ridiculously good player. And just the way he moves,
Mm,
he looks at look make it look so effortless and so easy. It's just he just glides across that ground. The handball to Max Holmes, where he's just like got it, and then his whole body turns, and then it's gone. Max Holmes has got it, and he's kicked a goal
mm.
before North Melbourne even could react to what had happened. You watch it back, and he handballs it, and the North Melbourne player's basically gone to tackle him. He's gone, oh, where's the ball gone? It's just
Mm.
he's just a freak, and he
Yeah.
can get up the ground so easily. Like there's times where he's in the forward line, Kangaroos rebounded it, and they get inside 50, and then there's Jamie Cameron taking an intercept mark in the defensive 50, and then he's back inside 450 kicking a goal. So what can
Yeah.
this guy not do when he's fully fit? He's just ridiculous, and I just keep thinking of what the Cats had to give up to get him, and so glad that they did because well, didn't give up much, and we got an absolute freak of a superstar who helped us win a grand final. And I had one off year, but again, he's just powering this team forward with the help of Stewart, Hawkins, Dangerfield, and then the young brigade coming behind them, who's going to continue on this legacy of greatness. But yeah, at the moment, just he's just on another level to so many players. It's kind of ridiculous.
What a pleasure. I was thinking about that play on the wing where he was involved in like a double effort, where he had it, gave it off, got it back, set it up. Like, and I was just thinking about how, you know, he's kind of people being like, "Oh, yeah, he's great around the ground. He's not kicking as many goals." And he just goes and like slots 6 straight. He sets up another 3. The pull kick to Brad Close, where it looks for all money like he's about to
Ugh,
launch for a goal himself, and he just effortlessly. It reminded me of watching Thierry Henry at his absolute best for Arsenal in 03-04, where it's just like this dude right now is nearly untouchable. Anything he can imagine, he can pretty much make it happen. and it's magnificent to watch. And I was just thinking, how lucky are we to watch this player? Like, I used to enjoy watching him at the Giants, but he, a bit like how I've told the story about, I used to love watching James Podsy Adley play for Werribee. And so then when he came to the Cats and, led our goal kicking a couple of years, I was like, this is so good. This is a player I used to love watching for another team. And now he's ours. It's what I feel about Jezza Cameron. Like, it's almost hard to
Yeah.
imagine him in another Guernsey, but he's just a magnificent player. And we are very, very privileged to watch him. And I think what he does on a footy field and what he's capable of stacks up with the best who have ever done it beneath those grandstands at Cardinia Park, whether those are still standing or they're the modern ones that have been rebuilt. So, yeah, no, fully deserving of the best on ground votes, Jeremy Cameron. And you, viewers and listeners, you are also deserving of best on ground votes because you have helped us to one of our best months of listenership ever on the Hoops Crew. We
Oh, yes.
massively appreciate it. Couldn't and wouldn't do this show without you. The fact that people are tuning in record numbers in 2024, as Johnny said, it warms the cockles of your heart. So we appreciate your support immensely. We're going to duck now over to the Patreon uh, content area and deliver our Patreon player focus on Jack Bowes. Got some interesting questions to float Johnny's way. So if you want to listen to that, if you want to watch
Ooh,
that,
nice.
go on over to the Hoops Crew Patreon and sign up for a 7-day free trial. You can cancel it after that if you want. You don't have to continue it. You can just say, nah, sorry, I like the 7 days, but now I'm out. But go and give it a whirl. 7 days for free. You get extended versions of these podcasts. You get early access to things like behind the play interview episodes from Paul. You get a Wednesday news show with Ben and me and sometimes other people. You also get VFL men's and women's coverage of the Cats, which is exclusive to the Hoops Crew Patreon subscribers. So if you want to get all that, there's hundreds of posts over there you get access to when you sign up. So make sure you go on over and give it a whirl. But hope you have a great week. More footy on the weekend. I'm getting married on the weekend. Until next
You
time,
are.
go Cats!
Go, Cats!